Today, I'm here with Alabama Wrestling Forum's Jaxon Bast. Hey, Jaxon, how are things up in your neck of the woods?
Everything's going well right now. School's going well. I know the team's getting ready for conference this week,
Yeah,
so good luck to those guys.
yeah. Is it cold up there? Because it's actually quite nice down here in the south.
Yeah, I was down in Alabama this past weekend, and I stayed an extra night because there's supposed to be a really bad storm in Bluefield. So I'm glad I did because I heard the conditions up here were horrendous.
You're selling it, man. So you were at sectionals down there recruiting for Bluefield. Is that
Yeah. I went down there. We had some guys that we've been looking at over the course of the season. I went down there, checked them out. All the guys looked pretty well. The bulk of the tournament. I split days. I did one day in the south and one day in the north, so I got to see a little bit of everybody.
got it? Wow, that's awesome. I mean, it's nice that they put all the classifications together and then they're not really all that far apart. So you can't go between the two. So that's got to be cool from a a media perspective, also from a recruiting perspective, because you get to see both, 8 tournaments going on. So
Yeah.
all right. So for those that don't know, we are going to break down each of the brackets in all 4 classifications. This is an intro that will go on the front of all 4 of the classifications. So in this intro, Jaxon, I think the thing that I want to ask you just as the basic overall is, we're all going to be in the Von Braun Center together, watching the action and everything else. Sure, you're focused on, say, 1A, 4A, and maybe Weaver or this weight class or whatever, but there's a lot happening. So can you give me 3 big things that kind of happening, in the Von Braun Center that you might be watching?
Yeah, I mean, it's to the fan. I would say that there are a couple of things that I'd be looking out for. Obviously, I'm pretty 7A heavy, but a kid who's actually been on quite a tear, and he goes to my high school. Will Conlon has been on an extreme tear this entire season. I think he's the only kid to beat Hunter Jones in state. He just pinned Jack Lamy in the sectional finals, so he's been taking it to it. And then there's some wrestlers out there like Jonathan Foster from Dora, 1 through 4A. He is such an explosive wrestler. It's honestly so much fun to watch him because he'll body lock him, and then it's guys' feet are up in the air. It's absolutely insane watching somebody like him wrestle. And then there are a couple other storylines you need to keep me out there. I know there are a couple people trying to repeat. Seniors going after their title in the last year. I think it's oh gosh, I think it's 152 is Brady Godwin and Josh Rowe. I think they're 2 seniors in 5A, so it's the smallest division, and they're both going after their first title. Josh has seen the state finals before, but it's Godwin's first time, and he just won the sectional tournament hot off of that, so he's full steam ahead.
So I loved how you threw out a few names and they kind of went all of the classifications, even though, like you said, you are 7A heavy. Is there a thing as far as the team races go in terms of what we might be paying attention to? I know Huntsville won duels in 7A, whether they're going to take that in 7A and traditional. Mountain Brook, same thing in 6A, so on and so forth.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, my favorite one to watch the team race easily is 6A. I think Mortimer Jordan's probably the heavy favorites going in. Came into sectionals, took care of business, didn't score all the points they probably thought they could score when it came down to the team race. But I mean, they still went out there and they wrestled tough and came home with the sectional title. I will be interested to see if Huntsville can actually push it all the way through. They were the heavy favorites for me going into sectionals. And they lost a couple matches that you could see going either way. And I think that's what it came down to is other teams just had better rounds. And like there were some matches like dang, I just lost his name. Bradley Williams versus Jake Ciccolello, which was a 13-11 match, and it was very much boom, 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 boom. It was an amazing match to watch. 160 with McKinney. He was the 1 seed. Harris Mitchell got some matches back, and he ended up finishing first. So there are some points that you figure they'd be able to have, but maybe it's just not that day. So I'll be interested to see how Huntsville adjusts going into this weekend.
All right. So the last thing I want to bring up is seeding. Alabama is one of the few states that actually seed their state tournament, seed their sectional tournament, and everything else. And for the most part, I think when the seeding is right, it really works well, and they do a pretty good job. The seeds last year in some of the weight classes were really quite good, and we saw a lot of 1 versus 2 matchups. Because the whole point of seeding is to put the two best opposite one another, and then having 3 and 4 separated. So we see those in the semis and so on and so forth. But I don't know if you noticed this, but there are some weird seeds in some of the classifications. And I'm going to give you just one example. In 7A, at I think it's 126 pounds, 138 pounds, and 285 pounds. Doesn't have anything to do with the number 1 seed or number 2 seeds or anything like that. But the guys who took second in the sectionals in the South, they're 8 seeds. They're the number 8 seed. They're even behind guys that they lost to or that they beat last weekend in sectionals. So that's crazy to me. I don't understand how you can, if you finish second at sectionals, I don't understand how you can not be at lowest the 6th seed, not the 8th seed.
Yeah, no, there were a couple of ones that were pretty puzzling to me, and I don't know if you can go and argue. And I'm sure that if it was literally just head-to-head matchups that the system missed for one reason or another, they might adjust. But I would definitely say that we knew this was kind of the backside of separating the North and the South even more. Those southern places, they end up wrestling the people who are around their area, and those guys aren't necessarily considered some of the high caliber wrestlers like there are in Birmingham. So when you it costs money to travel from like Foley, Alabama, all the way up to Birmingham. So, and it might not be worth that much when you're not thinking, oh, if I still win the sectional tournament, I'm going to get the 8th seed. That's not in your head what's going to happen.
Yeah, no, I totally get that part of it. And I get, even 1, 2, 3, and 4 from the North being the top 4 seeds, and then number 1 from the South is like we see in I think 7A 106, where the number 1 from the South is the number 5 seed. The thing I don't get is how in the world a kid who beat a kid last weekend ends up as a lower seed. That's the part I don't get.
I've seen it happen once or twice where they didn't fix it. I think it was like 2020 7A 160. There was this guy who beat a guy, but they ended up, it was kind of weird. Like he should have been above. He beat the guy who was the 3 seed and he was the 6 seed. So they ended up being in the same spot and they had to wrestle each other anyway, but they didn't adjust it because of some like seating hopping, I think. I'm not too sure. But no, honestly, it really did make me, it kind of took me for a loop when they saw some of those people who had beaten people in the previous weekend.
Yeah.
Or even if they outplaced them, like that still surprised me that they're still where they're at.
Yeah, no doubt. All right. I don't want to belabor the seeding and all that. So for those of you who are here for you're here for one of the different ones, because I'm going to cut this up into 4 different ones. We're now going to transition to one of those classifications. Stay with us as we break down all the brackets, all 14, and talk about the team race. All right, Jaxon, we're doing 1A, 4A. Do you want to start with the 106 pounders? You want to start with the teams, or do you want to run like a duel and we'll start somewhere in the middle and run our way through?
Let's probably start at a 106 so we don't just get the viewers a little too mixed up.
Okay. All right. So at 106 pounds, David Hill, Oak Grove, 8th grader, is your number 1 seed. Briley Carter's your 2 seed. Dalton Fink's a 3 seed. We have some wrestlers here. We have some young wrestlers here, but we have some wrestlers here who have also been to the state tournament before. None have actually won a title previously. What do you think of 106 pounds?
I mean, obviously, I feel like Hill is probably the favorite going into this weekend. He looked really good at the sectional tournament, and I'm not too sure that we're going to see somebody come near him.
Mm.
It's honestly insane that he is so young, and he's competing at such a good level.
He
We saw him
is.
last year. He didn't. He looked really, really good, but he couldn't do exactly what he wanted to punch it through. But
Yeah. So is that your pick for at 106 pounds?
that probably is my pick. Is probably Hill.
Can you tell me who might be on the other side? Are you taking Bradley Carter to get through as a 2 seed, or
Uh,
you
I'm
taking a look
sorry.
at it in front of you? It's okay.
Yeah, well, track wrestling is not being my best friend right now. That's why. There we go. Okay, we're all set now. Yeah, I would say that it probably is going to be Bradley Carter. I could see Fink maybe coming in. It's Weaver. They do a really good job of prepping their guys for the postseason year after year after year. But you are probably going to see an Ohatchee, Oak Grove matchup in the finals.
All right. Let's jump to 113. Your top seed is Trent Hopkins. 2 seed is Harry Grant, who is second in the South to Hopkins. Tanner Jarrell, White Plains is your 3 seed, who is the champ up north. Benjamin Santee or Ben Santee is your 4 seed. First, do you think the seeds are right? The South gets the first 2 seeds at 113. And who do you think is going to make their way to the championship or the title?
I definitely think it's probably going to be your top 2 seeds, and I
Okay.
think that the seeds are correct. I think that's just how it ended up being. But honestly, I could see one of the two in there. Uh, JP2, also a school that does really, really well in prepping their guys for the postseason. I'll be interested to see where it all kinds of pans out, but I would say it probably Hopkins, Grant finals.
Is there anybody down that didn't get seated? Say a Trent McGowan or a Hayden Heiss or Hayden Selson or a John Ryan Cruz, who you think? I mean, they're not going to win the tournament, but could they? Do you see any of them maybe making the podium?
Not really. I feel like probably your seeds are pretty solid at this weight. I don't
Mm-hmm.
see a lot of anybody weaseling through. You've got your top guys, and they're very solid. So with them only placing 6, I don't see somebody having one of those breakthrough in that tournament.
Okay. And I'm not going to ask you every single time, but if
Yeah.
you see somebody and I don't ask you, make sure you let me know. Okay. Cause I'm always like those storylines of the kid who comes in and kind of finds their way through. And just to put everything in context for the viewers, like the majority, like I'm going to pull this up, and remember we had 3 classifications last year, not 4 classifications last year, but in 1A, 4A last year, 10 of the champs were section champs. 3 of the state champs, were second in their section. So 13 of the 14 weight classes were pretty much dominated by, by those individuals. So, I mean, you don't always see those bracket busters happen. All right. So jump into 120. You got Mason Ham from White Plains, Jaden Rouse from Dora, Adrian Waugh, who was a state runner-up a year ago, is your 3 seed, and your 4 seed is Devin Pennington. One of the things that's really interesting about this, all 4 were your top 4 in the North, right?
Yeah, and that honestly does surprise me. That they have the North seated so high in this one. Only because Corley, the St. James guy from the South, he's no slouch. He's not a newbie when it comes to being in the Von Braun Center. He's somebody that we've talked about a bunch when it comes to 1 through 4. St. James, a powerhouse in that division. But I mean, I'm also that's nothing to knock from Waugh or Pennington, who are both absolute studs at the weight. But I am a little surprised that it is very North heavy in this one.
Okay.
Now I'll be interested to see exactly where it all pans out at that weight, only because Rouse, he wrestled pretty tough this weekend, and I know it ended up coming down to that final match. He dropped it, but I don't know.
Are you gonna give me a winner?
Honestly, I'm probably gonna go Rouse.
Okay.
He's probably my favorite to win it at this weight. Yeah.
Okay.
That's
All
probably what
right.
I'm gonna go with.
That's cool. No, that's good. That's good. I actually didn't pull up in front of me. I was gonna try to see what was the score of that match if I could have found it, but um let's see here.
Ham actually
Did you pin
pinned.
him?
Yeah.
Do you know? Oh, in the first period. All right.
Yeah. So I mean, Ham had a really good weekend. He took out Pennington, who was a 2. And I mean, obviously he pinned Rouse in the first, but I don't know. I think Rouse still is my favorite. He's the one seeded sectionals, so he's still kind of up there for me.
All right. So jump into 126. Marcus Wright, defending champion. If I'm wrong, let me know. But I'm pretty sure he's a defending champ, or he's a returning champ, not necessarily at this weight, obviously. Who was won the North? He's the 1 seed. Fisher Deason from American Christian Academy's 2 seed. Logan Hartson 3 seed. Nathan Cox is the 4 seed. Kind of evenly split between the North and the South on these seeds, but Wright is the number 1 seed. First, are the seeds right?
Yeah, well, based on what happened this past weekend, I would say so. But this is probably one of my favorite weights in 1 through 4A. You've got, if I'm not mistaken, Hartson was also a state champ last year for
He
St.
might have
James.
been, yeah.
So you already have 2 state champs. Fisher Deason at ACA. Obviously ACA has had 1 or 2 really good guys in the past, but as
And
a freshman,
he was a state champ. I just looked it up. You're right. Absolutely.
so
So
I thought
my fault.
honestly, and then you've got Isaac Duke is your 5, and that just kind of shows you the depth of what we're seeing here at this weight. Cox had a really good match in the semis where he beat Duke. Duke bounced back, ended up getting 3rd in a really close match with the John Paul JP2 kid. But honestly, like what that also shows you is that any match can go any way. But I'm definitely gonna say I can't really bet against Wright. I remember Wright had a really good match. He beat Hudson Waldrop, which was really impressive to me because obviously if you go look through Hudson Waldrop's track record, it's mostly Tech Falls.
Yeah.
And
Pretty dominant. Yeah.
yeah, Campbell commit, all sorts of guy. And we'll get to him when we talk about 6A. But really, he's absolutely kind of. But Marcus Wright, really did show that he can hang with some of the best guys in the state. So he's probably my pick for 126.
All right. Let's jump to 132, where we have, I think, a returning state placer, Shad Arbino from Orange Beach, who won the South. He's your 1 seed. Joseph Rodriguez, who lost to him in the South, who I think is a returning state runner-up. Then you got Damon Clayton, really tough wrestler, who won the North as your 3 seed. And then Baron House is there as your 4 seed. This is one of those weights that I think is pretty interesting because Camden Hamrick, who took 2nd in the North, is down as your 6th seed.
Yeah, honestly, I'm a little surprised they don't have Clayton up higher. I actually got to sit and watch his finals match while I was walking around. And I was talking to Ronnie Henderson, who was a former state runner-up for the Bulldogs back in 2020, and that Damon Clayton is actually the younger brother of another famous Dora wrestler. I can't think of his first name. I think it's Zach Clayton.
Okay.
I don't want to keep. He was a state champ for them a couple years back. Saw him in the corner, so there's a lot of blood between those Doors wrestlers, and I'm honestly surprised that he is seated so low. Don't get me wrong. Arbino has had a phenomenal season. I know that kid's work ethic is unmatched. Constantly, I hear everybody talk about how this kid is always after a workout. Like, I don't know what it is. He's one of those guys. He's got a championship mindset, which I think has led him to where he is right now. He's got that 1 seed. But we're really seeing here when it comes to the reason that Clayton isn't seated higher is just because of how the state tournament panned out last year. So I think that if Rodriguez didn't wrestle Arbino in the sectional finals, I could definitely see him being the top seed. I think it would have just been playing the game if they had forfeited the finals because they knew the seeding. And I'm glad they
Mhm.
didn't do that. I don't think most coaches do that, but I was really impressed by Clayton when I got to watch him on Saturday.
So who's going to win?
Honestly, my pick is probably Clayton. Yeah, he looked
Okay.
really, really tough. And I know I'm gonna hear something from Coach Bailey and
And you should hear something from Coach Bailey, right?
yeah. No. I mean, he's the top seed. He's going to be tough, but honestly, like I was really, really impressed with the way I saw Clayton Russell this past weekend, and I know I'll hear something from Coach Morales too down in Orange Beach, and that props to those guys. They have done a phenomenal job in their is it their second season or first season there? It's the first season they've
Their
had a
first season
program for
there,
2 years.
yeah. But Orange Beach hasn't. As a program, hasn't even been around a ton of time. So
I think it's only been 2 years for Orange Beach. Like I think they
yeah,
all came this year. So, but no, they've done a really, really good job, and they've done an even better job with developing Shade even more. I mean, he was
is it
already a state
Shade? It's not
player.
Shad. It's Shade.
It's Shade, yeah, Shade.
Sorry about that, Shade. And I should have said this at the very beginning in the intro. I'm probably going to slaughter a lot of people's names. Like it's just the way it is. I apologize. It's nothing personal. It's just it's the way it works sometimes. You know what I mean?
No, I'm the same way. I have to apologize. I got corrected a couple times this weekend when I asked about a kid, and it's just sometimes people have a pronunciation that isn't phonetically like it is in the English language, and
Yeah,
honestly,
it is what it is, right?
exactly.
All right, so let's jump to 138. You got David Herrick of Cherokee County, your North champ, and I believe a returning state champion, Brooks Ballantine, who took second to him, is your number 2 seed. Took second to him in the North. I'm sorry, is your number 2 seed. Austin Mayfield, who I'm always high on. The Mayfields out of Cleveland County. Gianluca Torres is your 4 seed. He was third at sectionals last weekend. This is another example of the number 2 from a section, Damon Winfrey, actually falling behind in the seeding than the person who finished below him in the bracket. So, how do you see this one?
Honestly, I see a Mayfield Herrick final. I definitely see Herrick winning. I mean, when Mayfield wrestled Ballantine, it literally was an overtime match that just happened to go Ballantine's way when they wrestled at the Piedmont Bulldog Invitational. Without being so close, I mean, Herrick, I'm pretty sure he beat Ballantine. I don't know how. Let me check real quick what he beat him. 7-0, and last time he beat him, it was 11-0. So I mean, it is becoming a
Mm.
much smaller margin, but I don't know if you can muster up 7 points in a week. But I definitely could see Mayfield finally pushing past, making the finals, but I definitely think Herrick's probably the favorite to win this weekend.
Well, I'm glad you made mention of that bracket because I mean Herrick beat Torres 8-0 in the semis. I don't even did he give up a point last weekend at the sectionals? I'd have to look that other match up again in the quarters, but maybe not
He
likely.
did not. He outscored his opponents. I gotta do some math in my head real quick. 22-0 in his 3 matches.
Not too shabby.
No, not at all. Not at all.
All right,
I
let's
mean,
jump to 145. And a kid that I've actually seen wrestle a few times is your top seed. That is Gavin Monk from Montevallo. He is your South Section champ. I think he's unbeaten on the year. But you got Jack von Eschenbach, who is the 2 seed. And I believe he's a returning state champion. A really tough Nick Williamson is your 3 seed. This is a fun weight.
now easily one of my more favorite weights again. Anytime you get to see a state finalist, Monk, wrestling, he's 50-0 on the year, and he's wrestling Jack von Eschbach, who is also, honestly, he's probably. I really don't want to have to bet against Monk because Monk is 50-0. But honestly, I think Von Eschbach probably pulls it out. He's been in the state finals before. We've talked about how important it is when you're in the state finals. Like the first time, it's super nerve wracking, but the second time, you've been there before.
Well,
And
and let's be honest. I mean, the state finals is the state finals, but I mean, I think I watched him at like the U.S. Open wrestling Greco. I mean, I mean, I could be wrong, but he goes everywhere. I mean, the stage shouldn't be an issue at all.
no, 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 no. But I don't know. I don't know.
Well, all right, who are you taking?
I'm probably gonna take Von Eschbach. Honestly, I know that I'm betting against Gavin Monk here, and I might end up eating my words here in about 5 days. But honestly, I got to go for the kid from JP too as my favorite.
All right, I get that. I mean, he won it last year, so it's hard to bet against a returning champ. So, all right, so let's jump to 152. Our number one seed is Tyler Ebner. And this is one that is kind of a head scratcher for me. And nothing against Ebner at all. I think he's certainly one or two as far as the seeds go, but he got pinned by King last weekend, and King is the 2 seed. Then you got Nadarian Jones, who is your 3 seed, who won the South. Jake Huff, who's really tough, out of St. James, is your 4 seed. What do you think? Is the seed right?
Does yours have Ebner being the 1?
Yes. Is that not what yours has?
No, mine has Ebner being the 2, King being the 1.
Okay. Yeah. So they might have fixed it. I actually pulled these down today. So maybe that's one of those things like we talked about in the intro where somebody called in and said, I don't understand this. Why in the world is this person in front of this person? Does it really matter? I mean, are those the 2 best kids in the weight anyway?
I would probably say so. Nadarius Jones, tough kid, won the South. I was surprised that Caldwell didn't beat Huff. Huff's real good. I've had him ranked number 1 at one point last season. And then King went through a really tough Rayburn in the semis, pinned Ebner to take the sectional title. So honestly,
since you have that in front of you, can you look up and I see he has a fall. Was the match close when he got the fall, or was he handling the match? Do you know?
It was a close match. It was a 7-5 match. So it was 5-5, and then there was a reversal with 38 seconds left, which I'm going to assume was when King pinned him. So yeah, 3 more. I guess it would have been a 10-5, but it was 5-5 until the action occurred. I'd have to go back and watch that match.
Yeah, and just so everybody knows, like, I mean, I did all of Georgia, and I've been looking at North Carolina, and I mean, I did watch some of the sectional finals and those sorts of things, but I certainly didn't catch all of them. So a lot going on, but I shout out to the AHSAA for having them, on track, so I can actually watch every single one of them if I wanted to. So, all right. So did you make your pick?
I think I did. I'm gonna have to go with King, honestly. Although it'll be a close match in the finals. But if there's somebody who I think is going to be a genuine bracket buster, it's probably Elijah Thomas.
Okay.
From Escambia County. Their head coach is actually he was a Vestavia alum, and he used to come in. So a teammate of mine, his older brother, same guy. He helped out at Berry Middle School and then got the opportunity to go down to Atmore, Alabama, head up this program. He's done a really good job with it. Elijah's probably their biggest standout. They've got a couple guys. Another 160 is a senior who qualified. But yeah, he built that program for the ground up. But I also just, I'm not saying all that to say that I'm biased in any way, but I saw him wrestle this weekend, and that kid is elusive, explosive. Honestly, a lot of adjectives that start with E.
All right. Energetic,
exciting.
Exciting. I'm with you. I think it's great. So I'm a huge fan. I don't pick sides. I don't really I don't have that sort of thing, but I love it when programs can bring, especially new programs can get on kind of on the map and those sorts of things. I think it's super great and super good for the sport. So that's awesome. That's pretty cool. All right, so let's jump to 160. We've got Devin Jeffries of Deschler, who is your top seed. And thanks for correcting me on the last one, because I pulled these down just a little while ago, but that doesn't mean they weren't fixed between the time I pulled them down. So if you see something else that I've said that is incorrect, you let me know. Devin Jeffries is the 1 seed. Ricky Tony is the 2 seed. Delvin Taylor's the 3 seed. Caleb Hager is the 4 seed. A little interesting in that Curtis Daniel is the 6 seed. And at least that's what I have. And yet he won the South. So interesting.
And then Mullinex got 2nd. He's the 8th seed.
Right.
Yeah, there. Like I said, I think. I mean, obviously, we're trying to get this content out right now, and I'm sure that when we look at this, they'll probably have corrected 1 or 2 more things, because I don't see Hager staying the 4, especially after. It'd have been one thing if Daniel had made the finals and lost, but since Daniel won it, I am surprised that they put him where he was.
Yeah, well, where he is currently when we're recording this, which is on Tuesday in the afternoon. So if you watch this on Thursday, that it may have been corrected by that point in time. All that to say, is Jeffries your favorite, and are you picking him?
Jeffries is my pick to have to win it. Returning state finalist, 1 through 4A, real tough kid from Deschler, already a really good program, and he's been pretty dominant throughout the season. So I definitely have him being my pick.
All right, so let's jump to 170. And I mean, there's a handful of kids in 1A, 4A that, this isn't a slight to everybody else, but a handful of kids that I've watched wrestle and I'm super impressed with as far as the way that they compete. One is your heavyweight, and we'll get to that him in a few minutes. But another one is Joshua Johansson from Weaver, who comes in 38-0. He won the North. We can go through. Leighton Pohl is from New Hope, is the 2 seed. Zach Buchanan is the 3 seed who won the South. But Johansson's just looked unbelievably good.
Yeah, I don't see anybody really touching Johansson. Senior season, trying to collect his 3rd title, and I definitely don't see somebody coming near him. I think the race is for 2nd. I'll be interested to see who makes it into that final spot. I was surprised that Gill didn't claim that South section. But Buchanan, he wrestled good. Ranburn had a great sectional tournament. Sent, if I'm not mistaken, Ranburn sent 8 guys, which is, I think Ranburn's literally one of the few 2A schools that actually has a wrestling program. Where we talk about it being 1 through 4A, I'm not even sure how many 1A schools are in there. I think there's a couple. I think Alabama School for the Blind might be 2A. But I don't think anybody's going to touch Joshua Johansson this weekend.
Yeah. And I think actually your point as it relates to how small really Ranburn is and how much success they've had, I mean, is really a testament to their program. And I mean, I remember years ago they were in the state finals and they were losing their minds. And obviously this past year they lost in. Did they lose in the state finals? Yeah, they lost the state finals. So it's just pretty cool to watch, a small program enjoy a lot of success. All right, so let's move to 182. You already spoke about Jonathan Foster in the intro. He is 36-0, your number 1 seed, won the North. Your number 2 from the North, Anthony Usry, is that how you say it?
I messed up his name last time. I don't want to try.
You don't want to try? I'm sure.
I said Usry, and I don't think that's how you pronounce it.
So his mom can let me know. I'm sure she will. Luke Campbell is the 3 seed. So again, is this just like 170? Not to knock anybody below Foster, but man, he's just like so good.
No, I mean it's exactly right. I don't think anybody's going to touch Foster. He pinned his way through the sectional tournament. It wasn't really close in the finals. It was 13-2 when he got that pin. So I really don't see it. I think it's another one we talk about, a race for second. When I think of race for second, I remember it was when they talked about John McAlphin many years ago, and it was Fletcher Swindle and oh gosh, I can't think of Patty's. I don't know if Patty was his first name or his last name now.
Hmm.
I think Patty was his first name, but he was a kid from Moody, kid from Alexandria. They were wrestling. That was the first time I heard the phrase wrestling for second. It's like when you see Spencer Lee in the national finals. Most time they're just wrestling for second.
And you hate to say that because I mean, the truth is anything can happen.
Mhm.
It's just if you're really like looking at it, you're going, yeah, anything can happen, but it's just not really very likely. I mean, it just isn't. So
My Dallas Cowboys going to the Super Bowl. Anything can happen. I don't know if it will though.
All right, let's jump to 220 and a really fun weight class.
I
Layden
think we missed
Olson.
195.
Oh, I'm sorry, I missed 195. My fault. 195 before I get to 220. Ooh, all right. So Mason Ellis is your top seed. Two-time Fargo All-American as a 16U this past summer. I got to see him wrestle a lot. Zeke Curvin comes in as your 2 seed, who took second to him. Ansel Stinnett, who won the South, is your 3 seed. But I mean, again, Mason Ellis is pretty dominant.
Yeah, no, I hate that we had these 3 weights back to back to back, but that's just the case. Ellis is, I mean, he's 47-1.
Right. And his
He-
lone loss was, I think, the Hunter Jones, right?
I want to make sure. I think you're right. I think that is the only time he lost. Yeah, Hunter Jones 3-1 when they dueled Hewitt Trustful.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's again, it's another one of those weights, and I don't see any, unless somebody has a really good match against him. I mean, it hasn't been close in 1 through 4. Just in different divisions, like we saw, if we had Hunter Jones and Mason Ellis in a weight, maybe that's a title we talk about. But for right now, I don't see anybody coming close to him.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, see, I just jumped to 220 because we were just going to say the same thing as 170, 182. So 220, moving on to Layden Olson of Asheville is your top seed. Layden was a runner-up last year, wasn't he?
He lost to Ethan Thrash in the
That's right.
state finals.
You've got Gurley is your 2 seed, Ransom is your 3 seed, Flores is your 4 seed, at least as I have them, all from the north. Is that what you have in front of you?
Yep. Ransom is my 3, and then Anthony Flores is my 4 until we hit Walter Wellborn.
Yes. And Andrew Salter, who was second in the South, and your champion in the South, Pearson, is your 7th seed.
Yeah, no, I that really, I'm trying to see who that 6th seed is.
Charles Adams from Montevallo, at least not according to mine.
So then that's who I have. I was trying to figure out if maybe everything no, I mean, I think it should be Pearson as your 5.
Right.
I'm not sure why he's your 7. But for right now, I mean, honestly, I was, Olson wrestled really good, really tight match in the finals. I didn't realize this, but Olson's dad was on I can't remember the high school team, but I was talking to somebody about it, and they said that his dad was part of this really tough team back in the day. And if I remember, I'll mention it. But
okay,
yeah,
no, I mean, Olson has been right there as a state runner-up. He's had a really good season. He certainly looks like the part, but like you said, he did have a tough 2-0 match, I think it was, in the finals of North. So that's something to keep an eye on. There's not a lot of margin for error. All right, and now we jump to 285, and I mean, just a phenomenal heavyweight in Carson Hall, who's the two-time state champ already? 3-time state champ?
Yeah, because he lost in the finals his freshman year. Yeah.
46-0, senior. He won the South. And, I kind of hate it for Mason Wilson because he took second. Didn't he take second to Hall a year ago?
He did.
Yeah, and he draws him again. It's just kind of the way that works. And I think like 3 of his 5 losses on the year are to Hall. So, we could talk about the rest of the group, but I mean, is this another weight class that's similar to the Mason Ellis and Joshua Johansson and that crew? Or do you think somebody's close enough to maybe knock off Hall?
No, I don't. I don't think somebody's gonna be close to knocking off Hall. I think Hall claims his 3rd title again. I'll be interested who does make it to second. Cockerell had a 5-0 match against Hall. Wilson has had a 4-0 match against Hall, but it's still, he's still shutting the guys out. It's not any other time he's wrestled them, it's usually been pins. So I probably am going to put him in the same boat. And I would say heavyweight's kind of on a different thing. Sometimes it's hard to move that guy over. Sometimes you just win 5-0. It's not necessarily a lack of dominance. It just is what it is.
Yeah, and still, the person did not score a point on you. So that's pretty stout. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, 100%.
All right, so let's jump real quick and just talk a little bit about the team race. Is it a 2-team race between Asheville and Weaver? Asheville has 12 qualifiers. Weaver has 10 qualifiers. Asheville has 2 number 1 seeds, 1 number 2 seed. Weaver has, so on and so forth. They're pretty evenly spread out, but Dora with 4 wrestlers behind Asheville, that's a tough thing to make up at traditional. Unless 4 of Asheville's wrestlers don't score any points, they're going to be ahead.
Yeah, and it's hard to pick that, but you're probably right. I don't see Dora covering the ground with as little wrestlers as they have. I think it does come down to the wire, but I'm probably going to have to go with the Asheville Bulldogs to take the team title.
All right. So you just heard it from Jaxon Bast talking about 1A, 4A. Jaxon, I appreciate you taking the time. Are you going to be down at the state tournament this weekend?
I will not. I'll be down with the guys over in Marietta, Georgia at conference. So
that's right.
But I'll be watching from afar on my phone, I promise.
All right, Jaxon, I appreciate it, man.
All right, see ya.